There are places on Earth where the road isn't a road anymore. It's a line, scratched into rock, hanging over nothing. And when you're there, you stop thinking in miles. You stop thinking in destinations. You start thinking in centimeters. A cliff on your left. Cold, vertical, indifferent. A drop on your right. So deep your brain refuses to measure it. And between those two truths, a strip of gravel, barely wider than a single vehicle. Sometimes the danger isn't speed. It's the opposite. It's the slow crawl. Tires searching for traction, while the wind keeps tapping the door like a warning you can't ignore. And then the railway, a bridge of steel, suspended above a gorge, where every bolt looks like it's doing more work than it was ever designed to do. The train doesn't fly, it survives. Out on the sea, there's a different kind of fear. Not the fear of falling, but the fear of being pushed. A track runs into open water, and the wind hits the carriage sideways, as if the ocean itself is trying to vote you off the map. And then comes the moment you never planned for. A blind corner. A vehicle you didn't expect. A fraction of a second where both drivers do the same calculation. If neither of us moves, someone disappears. Because in these places, there is no room for ego. No room for mistakes. Sometimes, not even room to breathe. This isn't a travel list. This is a tour of routes and landscapes that feel like they were never meant for human bodies or human nerves. And yet, people still go. They drive. They ride. They cross. Not because it's safe, but because standing on the edge of the world makes you feel something you can't get anywhere else. So if you're ready, take a breath. Because from here on, the map stops being comforting, and the journey becomes a test of how close you can get to the impossible without falling into it. The locals don't call it dangerous. They call it what it is: death road. A ribbon of dirt carved into the mountains between La Paz and the Yungas, where the air is thin, the fog is thick, and the margin for error is almost insulting. At first, it doesn't even look real. The road is barely 3 meters wide in places. Not a lane, a ledge. On one side, a wall of wet rock, sweating from the clouds. On the other, an open drop, hundreds of meters of nothing. No guardrail, no shoulder, no second chance. And the terrifying part isn't a single scary spot. It's the fact that the road never relaxes. It keeps turning, narrowing, crumbling, as if it's designed to wear down your attention, centimeter by centimeter. When rain hits, the ground turns slick. Mud becomes grease, and stones, small at first, start to slide, as if the mountain is quietly rearranging the route while you're on it. Then you meet the thing every driver fears: oncoming traffic. There's no room to pass. Sometimes there isn't even room to stop. Two vehicles face each other on a cliffside, and suddenly the road is no longer a road. It's a negotiation. Who reverses? Who trusts their tires? Who has the nerve to inch backward, with nothing behind them but open air? And even if you survive the driving, the road leaves another mark, because down in the valley, you start to see it. Crosses, scraps of metal, broken guard posts, small memorials that look too ordinary for what they represent. They don't scream, they don't warn, they just sit there, quiet and permanent. A reminder that this place didn't earn its name through marketing, it earned it through history. And that's why Death Road isn't just terrifying, it's psychological. It forces you to do something most modern life never demands: to stay fully present, fully awake, fully aware that comfort is not guaranteed. Here, the mountain doesn't care if you're brave. The fog doesn't care if you're experienced. And gravity doesn't care if you're having a good day. On the North Yungas Road, you don't conquer the route. You're simply allowed to pass, if the road decides to let you. If Death Road feels like nature trying to erase you, Guoliang feels like humans refusing to disappear. Because before this tunnel existed, the village behind it was effectively cut off. A pocket of life trapped inside the Taihang Mountains, surrounded by stone walls so steep they looked like a prison built by geology. And then someone did the unthinkable. They didn't go around the mountain. They went through it. As you approach, the first thing you notice isn't the entrance. It's the scale of the cliff. A vertical face of limestone, hundreds of meters high, so flat and brutal, it almost looks engineered. And then you see it, a long, dark crack running across the rock, like the mountain has been split open with a blade. That's the road. The Guoliang Tunnel is narrow, about 4 meters wide, roughly 5 meters high. Tight enough that even today, 2 vehicles meeting inside feels like a test you didn't sign up for. The walls are raw. You can see tool marks, scars, uneven cuts. Proof that this wasn't created by machines and comfort. It was carved by people who lived on the other side and were done being isolated. And then come the openings. Rectangular windows cut out of the cliffside, not for beauty, but to pull debris out, to let light in. From inside the tunnel, they look like frames. From the outside, they look like missing teeth in the mountain. You drive forward, and the emotional rhythm changes fast. At first, fear, because the tunnel is dark and tight. Then, tension, because the road surface isn't forgiving. And finally, something that feels almost like awe. Because you realize what this really is. Not a tourist attraction, not a crazy road. It's a monument to stubborn human will. To the idea that if a mountain blocks your life, you don't ask permission. And still, this place doesn't let you forget the cost. The edge is close. The windows open to empty air. And sometimes, when you glance out, your brain hesitates for a split second, because the view isn't a view. It's the drop. Guoliang doesn't scare you like a horror movie. It scares you like a reality check. A reminder that some roads aren't built for convenience. They're built because survival demanded it. And when you finally exit the tunnel and daylight hits your eyes, you don't feel like you finished a drive. You feel like you passed through a human decision, carved into solid stone. After Guoliang, you think you've seen tight. Then Maui shows you a different kind of fear, the kind that comes with sunlight, ocean air, and absolutely no forgiveness. Because the Kahekili Highway doesn't look like a death trap at first. It looks like a postcard road. Lush cliffs, turquoise water, palm shadows dancing in the wind. But then the road narrows, and narrows again. Until it's not really a highway anymore. It's a 1.5 car wide ribbon, sometimes less than 3 meters, clinging to the cliff like it's holding on by its fingernails. On one side, a rock wall that feels close enough to scrape your mirrors. On the other, open air, and the Pacific waiting at the bottom. No guardrails, no shoulder, no room to breathe. And the most dangerous part isn't even the drop, it's the blind corners. Corners so tight you can't see what's coming until it's already there. And when it is, you don't pass, you negotiate. Sometimes it's a local truck. Sometimes it's another rental car with tourists who suddenly realize they've made a very expensive mistake. And then comes that moment every driver remembers. Both cars stop. Both drivers stare. And the road quietly asks, which one of you is going to reverse first? Because on Kahekili, backing up isn't just annoying. It's a psychological test. You reverse toward a cliff edge you don't fully trust, trying not to look at the ocean, trying not to imagine what a tiny skid would mean. Meanwhile, the wind is pushing. Salt air is blasting into your window, and the sunlight is so beautiful it feels insulting. Like nature is smiling while you sweat through your shirt. And that's the strange thing about this road. It doesn't scream danger. It whispers it. It tricks your brain with beauty, then punishes you for relaxing. So if you ever drive Kahekili, there are only 2 rules that matter. Go early, before the traffic builds and before the light turns harsh. And if you're not confident on narrow mountain roads, don't prove anything. Because this isn't about bravery. It's about margin. And Kahekili offers almost none. By the time you finally reach a wider stretch and pull over, you don't feel victorious. You feel something quieter, relief, and respect. For a road that looks like paradise, but drives like a warning. Kahekili is a knife edge in sunlight. The Dalton Highway is something else entirely. Not a cliff you can see, but a distance you can't argue with. Because out here, danger isn't a corner. It's the empty space between help and you. The Dalton runs roughly 414 miles from Livengood to Deadhorse, straight into Alaska's Arctic oil country. And the first thing you notice isn't the road. It's the silence of everything around it. No towns, no streetlights, no comforting signs every few minutes telling you you're still in the world. Just gravel, sky, and a line that keeps going. Even when your mind starts asking the question you normally avoid, if something breaks, who's coming? In summer, it's dust. Thick, choking clouds, kicked up by heavy rigs, grit that finds its way into every seal and every breath. In winter, it's the opposite problem. Ice, snow, wind that bites through the car like it isn't there, and temperatures that can plunge toward minus 40 degrees Celsius. And the Dalton doesn't care which season you chose. It stays the same, remote, rough, and unforgiving. Most of it is gravel, only a portion is asphalt. That means the road is constantly changing. Washed out by weather, chewed up by truck tires, and full of loose stone that can turn a windshield into shattered glass in one instant. So out here, speed isn't thrill. Speed is negligence. Locals will tell you 40, 50 miles per hour max. Not because it's slow, but because it's survival math. Then come the real kings of the Dalton, oil tankers. Huge, heavy, fast enough to feel like an oncoming wall. They throw debris like shrapnel, and when they pass, the world turns briefly into a sandstorm of rocks. So you give them space. You stay back. You let them own the road, because they do. And somewhere along the route, the Dalton climbs into its most infamous section, Yungas Pass. The highest mountain pass on the highway, sharp turns, steep grades. And in winter, a surface that can feel like driving on glass. One bad decision here doesn't just mean a scare. It can mean you slide, and nobody sees you do it. That's what makes the Dalton different from every road so far. Guoliang threatens you with a cliff. Kahekili threatens you with a blind corner. The Dalton threatens you with time. With the simple truth that in a place this vast, mistakes don't get corrected quickly. They just sit there. And as the miles stack up, you start to feel it. Your shoulders tighten. Your eyes scan the road like you're reading it for hidden traps. You listen to the engine more carefully than music. You watch the fuel gauge like it's a heartbeat. Because on the Dalton Highway, the road isn't trying to kill you loudly. It's doing something colder. It's asking whether you're prepared to be alone with your own consequences. And when you finally stop, when you step out into that Arctic air and hear absolutely nothing, you understand why this road has a reputation. Not because it's dramatic, but because it's honest. It shows you what modern life usually hides, how thin the line is between comfort and the wild. If the Dalton is fear by distance, Skipper's Canyon Road is fear by geometry. Because this isn't remote, it's immediate. The moment you turn onto it, the message is clear. This road was not built for comfort. It was carved for necessity, and it never got updated for modern nerves. The pavement disappears almost instantly. What replaces it is gravel, dusty when it's dry, greasy when it's wet, and narrow enough to make you question whether two cars were ever meant to meet here at all. On your left, rock, close enough to touch. On your right, a drop so clean and deep, it doesn't look real, like the canyon is a cut in the earth someone forgot to finish. Far below, the shot-over river glows emerald, beautiful in the way a blade is beautiful. And the worst part? It's not the drop, it's the width. Single-lane sections that don't forgive hesitation, blind corners that hide whatever's coming, and turnouts that are rare enough to feel like miracles. Because if you meet another car, you don't pass, you negotiate. And sometimes that negotiation looks like this. One of you has to reverse, not 5 meters, not 10, but 100 meters or more. Back along the edge, tires crunching gravel, hands tight on the wheel, eyes refusing to look down. That's why people joke that insurance companies reject you here. Not because it's a meme, but because this road doesn't offer margin. It offers only skill and luck and restraint. And then, just when your body starts to settle into a tense rhythm, Skipper's gives you its signature moment. The suspension bridge, built in 1901. From a distance, it looks delicate, almost elegant. Up close, it feels like something you should not drive onto. Nearly 100 meters above the river, it sways. Subtle at first, then undeniable. A slow movement that tells your brain, this is not solid ground. The boards creak. The rails hum. The canyon wind presses against the car like a hand. And for a second, you're not driving. You're balancing. What makes this place so powerful, especially for people who watch travel documentaries like Comfort TV, is the contradiction. The scenery is postcard perfect. But the experience is pure survival psychology. Because Skipper's Canyon doesn't scare you with speed. It scares you with stillness, with the idea that if you make one wrong decision, there's no dramatic crash scene, just silence, and the river continuing below like nothing happened. And when you finally reach the end, you don't feel triumphant. You feel lighter. Like you've been holding your breath for an hour. And only now remembered you're allowed to exhale. That's Skipper's. Not the most famous road in the world, but one of the few. That makes you understand what edge really means. Not as a metaphor, as a place your tires just touched. After Skipper's, you don't need more chaos. You need a different kind of fear, control. Because Stelvio Pass isn't wild. It's engineered, measured, numbered. And that makes it even more terrifying. Because there's nowhere to blame the road. Only your hands. It starts like a postcard. Pine forests, clean air, alpine silence. The kind of scenery that makes you forget you're climbing. Then the eastern ascent begins. And the pass reveals what it really is. A staircase of asphalt, 48 hairpin turns, stacked so tightly they look impossible from above. Like a giant coiled snake laid across the mountain. Every corner is a small exam. Downshift. Brake. Turn. Look. Commit. Repeat. And the numbers on the turns. Counting down as you climb. Feel like a countdown in your chest. 47. 46. 45. Because on a road like this, there's no cruising. No autopilot. You're constantly calculating. Is there enough room to swing the nose around? Is someone coming down faster than they should? Can my brakes handle another 10 minutes of punishment? And then there's the part most people don't talk about, the pass doesn't scare you with cliffs. It scares you with other drivers. Tourists who stop mid-turn for a photo. Motorcyclists who treat every bend like a trophy. Cyclists grinding upward, moving slow, forcing tight passes where the margin is thin. Sometimes you come into a switchback and see headlights. And your brain does the math instantly. 2 vehicles, 1 curve, no room for pride. This is where Stelvio earns its reputation. Not as a place you drive, but a place you work. By the time you reach the summit, 2,757 meters, you feel it in your forearms. Then you turn around, and you see the whole climb laid out below you. Those 48 curves, the ones that felt endless while you were inside them, now look like something unreal, a design so clean it feels drawn. And suddenly you understand why shows like Top Gear called it one of the greatest driving routes on Earth. Not because it's relaxing, because it forces you to be fully present. On Stelvio, you can't think about emails. You can't think about tomorrow. You can only think about the next 10 seconds. And that's the strange gift of a road like this. It doesn't just change your altitude, it changes your brain. Because when you finally stop, engine ticking as it cools, you realize something simple. Most places on Earth are built to make life easier. Stelvio was built to prove that humans can cut a line through a mountain and live to tell the story. Danakil Depression, Ethiopia. If there's a place that makes you question whether you're still on Earth, it's here. The Danakil Depression doesn't look like a destination. It looks like a planet that hasn't finished forming yet. The air hits you first. Not hot, not warm, hostile. The kind of heat that doesn't sit on your skin. It presses through it, and then the ground starts changing color. Not the normal colors of desert and rock, but violent yellows, acid greens, burnt oranges, blood reds. Like someone spilled chemicals across the crust of the world. Up close, it's even stranger. Salt pillars rising like frozen waves. Bubbling pools that hiss and pop like something alive. Mineral terraces that look like coral reefs, except you're standing nowhere near an ocean. And all of it comes with that smell. That sharp sulfur bite in the air. The kind that makes your nose sting and your stomach tighten. Because your body understands what your eyes can't fully process. This is beautiful, but it is not safe. Temperatures here can hover above 45 degrees Celsius. There are places where the ground is soft and crusted. A thin skin over heat and acid. One bad step, and the landscape becomes a lesson. That's why Danakil doesn't feel like tourism. It feels like witnessing an extreme. Like the Earth is showing you its raw machinery. The part we're not supposed to get close to. And yet, people come anyway. Not for comfort. Not for luxury. They come because Danakil forces a kind of honesty. Nature doesn't care if you're impressed. It doesn't care if you're afraid. It just keeps working. Boiling. Breathing. Building and breaking the ground beneath you in real time. And standing here, surrounded by colors that look unreal, you realize the truth behind this chapter. Some places aren't meant to be enjoyed. They're meant to be understood. Even if only for a moment. Because once you've seen a place like this, every normal landscape back home feels a little less certain. Deadvlei, Namibia. After Danakil, you think you've already seen unreal. But Deadvlei isn't loud like fire or acid. It doesn't hiss. It just stares back at you. Getting here feels like earning access. You don't simply arrive. You push in, deep into the dunes. Where the sand is so soft and shifting that normal cars don't stand a chance. This is 4x4 territory, and even then, it's a fight. And then you walk. Not far. About 1 kilometer. But every step feels heavier because the heat rises from below like a second sun. And suddenly, the dunes open. You step into a white clay basin, so clean it looks staged, like a movie set built to trick your brain. Surrounding it, giant red dunes, the tallest on Earth, glowing like embers when the light hits right. And in the middle, the trees. black, dead, perfectly preserved, not rotting, not collapsing, just standing there like frozen screens. They died hundreds of years ago, when this place was still an oasis, when water used to flow, when life used to breathe here. Then the climate shifted. The river changed, the dunes cut the basin off, and the trees stayed, not because they survived, but because there's almost no moisture left to let them decay. It's one of the strangest feelings you can have as a traveler. You're looking at death, and it somehow feels proud. The best time to see it is early. Dawn, before the temperature turns brutal. That's when the light goes gold and the shadows stretch long across the clay. But even then, it's not a casual visit. You need boots, because sand here can burn. You need water, because dehydration comes fast. And you need patience, because Deadvlei punishes anyone who rushes. Walk slowly, because every footprint you place on that pale floor feels like stepping across a clock. Not minutes, millennia. And that's the real reason this place hits so hard. Danakil looks like a world being born. Deadvlei looks like a world that already ended and simply forgot to disappear. And once you've stood inside that silence, surrounded by red dunes and black trees, you start to understand something uncomfortable. Earth doesn't always destroy with violence. Sometimes it erases life, with nothing more than time and a little less water each year. Salar de Uyuni, Bolivia. If Deadvlei feels like the world after the ending, then Salar de Uyuni feels like the world before reality decided what it should be. Because here, the ground isn't earth. It's salt. An ocean that dried up so completely it turned into a continent. A white, cracked surface stretching so far that your sense of distance starts lying to you. You arrive by 4x4 and the first shock is how quiet it is. No trees, no waves, no city hum, just the sound of your boots. Crunch, crunch, crunch. Salt crystals breaking underfoot like glass. And the surface, it's not random. It's arranged in huge geometric patterns. Endless hexagons, like a design drawn by something bigger than human hands. In the dry season, it's a blinding white desert, a place where the horizon looks cut with a knife. But the real reason people call this one of the most impossible places on Earth is what happens in the rainy season. A thin layer of water spreads across the flats, sometimes just a few centimeters, and suddenly the salt disappears. Not because it's gone, but because it becomes a mirror, the largest natural mirror on the planet. Sky above, sky below, and you, floating in the middle of it, like the world forgot where up is supposed to be. It's beautiful in a way that feels almost illegal, because your eyes keep searching for something stable. A shadow, a tree, a corner, anything that confirms you're standing on ground. But there's nothing, just reflections. And that's when you realize why this place messes with people psychologically. Most landscapes give you an anchor. Uyuni takes the anchor away. It turns navigation into philosophy. It's also one of those places where scale becomes a joke. A car in the distance looks like a toy. A person becomes a dot. And in photos, everything starts to look fake, even though it's one of the most real things you'll ever stand on. And underneath all that beauty is a reminder that's easy to miss. This isn't just a tourist miracle. This is a giant mineral reserve. Salt, lithium. A place the modern world wants, because the future runs on batteries. So Uyuni isn't only a wonder. It's a battlefield you can't see yet, between untouched beauty and the hunger of technology. Because here, even paradise has a price tag. And when you finally step back into the 4x4, leaving that mirror behind, the strangest part is this. You don't feel like you visited a place. You feel like you briefly stepped into a glitch. A moment where Earth stopped pretending to be normal and showed you what it really is. A planet that can rewrite reality with just a few centimeters of water. The Wave, Arizona, USA. If Salar de Uyuni makes Earth feel like a mirror, then the wave makes Earth feel like fabric. Not rock, fabric. Because when you finally stand in front of it, your brain refuses the truth at first. This isn't flowing silk frozen mid-motion. This is sandstone. Solid, ancient, and completely still. And yet it looks like it's moving. The curves roll across the desert like ribbons. Orange, red, cream, soft pink, layered so cleanly that it feels designed, not formed. As if a giant hand dragged a brush across the ground and stopped halfway. But the real reason the wave belongs in impossible places isn't just beauty. It's access. This is one of the most restricted natural wonders in the United States. Not because it's dangerous like a cliff road, but because it's fragile. Too many feet, too many hands, too many people trying to take a piece home, and the whole thing begins to die. So to even enter, you don't just buy a ticket. You win a lottery. A permit that feels less like paperwork and more like an invitation. And even if you have it, the desert doesn't care. There are no obvious trails, no comforting signs, no crowds to follow like a safety net. You navigate with GPS, maps, landmarks. And the constant awareness that a wrong turn out here doesn't feel dramatic. It feels quiet, like disappearing. Heat builds fast. In summer, the sun isn't just bright. It's physical, pressing down like a weight. And in this kind of terrain, water isn't a suggestion. It's the difference between a memory and a rescue report. Then, finally, you drop into the sandstone basin. And it hits you. The wave isn't large the way mountains are large. It's intimate, up close. The lines tighten and wrap around you, like you're standing inside the rings of time itself. And the light changes everything. Morning, shadows carve depth into the folds. Afternoon, colors ignite. Midday, the entire formation flattens into a surreal painting. Every stripe visible, every curve clean. It's the kind of place that makes people whisper without being told. Because it doesn't feel like a tourist spot. It feels like a cathedral with no roof. And it raises a question that follows you back out into the desert. How many wonders in this world don't need fences? Only restraint because the wave isn't protected by walls. It's protected by scarcity. By rules. By the simple idea that some places survive only if we accept. We're allowed to see them, but not to own them. Death Valley, USA. If the wave feels like a hidden cathedral, then Death Valley feels like a warning, not a metaphor. A literal warning written into the land. Because this isn't a place that tries to impress you with one perfect viewpoint. It overwhelms you with scale. A basin so wide it looks endless. Mountains that shimmer like heat mirages. And a silence so complete it feels unnatural. Like the world forgot to add sound. This is the lowest, hottest, and dreariest place in North America. And when you arrive, you understand something instantly. Here, nature doesn't negotiate. The first shock is the salt. White fields stretching out like a cracked sheet of glass. Broken into long polygons, sharp patterns, like something engineered. Except nothing here was engineered. It's geology doing geometry. And under a clean blue sky, the contrast is so intense it almost hurts your eyes. Then the heat starts to make itself known. Not like summer heat. Not like it's a bit warm. More like standing in front of a giant invisible hairdryer aimed directly at your face. Air that feels too hot to be real. And the worst part is how quickly it drains you. In Death Valley, you don't get tired. You get dehydrated before you realize you're thirsty. But the strangest thing about this place isn't the danger. It's the beauty. Because at sunrise, when the first light hits the ridgelines, the valley becomes a canvas. Pink, purple, green, yellow. Colors created by oxidized minerals, layered across the mountains like spilled paint. For a few minutes, it looks like another planet, like you're standing on the edge of Mars, and Earth is somewhere far behind you. Even the dunes feel wrong. At places like Mesquite Flat, you walk into sand that should be loud. Wind, shifting grains, movement. And instead, you get silence. If you stop moving, you can hear your own heartbeat. No birds, no leaves, no life noises. Just you and the land. That's why Death Valley is an impossible place. Not because you can't go there. Because once you're there, you realize how thin the line is between a road trip and a survival situation. One wrong decision. Starting too late. Bringing too little water. Trusting your phone signal. Trusting your car. And the landscape doesn't become dramatic. It becomes indifferent. And that's the true fear of Death Valley. Not that it wants to kill you, but that it doesn't even notice you're there. Pamban Bridge Route, India. After deserts that feel like other planets, this is where the danger turns mechanical. Steel, wind, salt, and a line so thin it looks impossible on a map, because it runs straight out into the ocean. The Pamban Bridge isn't a mountain road. It's not a canyon, it's something stranger, a railway track stretched across open water, exposed on all sides, as if someone dared the sea to take it. The first feeling isn't speed. It's wind, not a breeze. A pressure you can hear, whistling through gaps, slamming against the carriage, making the whole world vibrate. And then you look down. The sea is right there, not far below, right there. A few meters of air, blue water, and the sense that nothing in between feels enough. No thick concrete wall, no heavy barrier. Just rusted steel, corroded by salt, and waves punching the bridge's pillars like a slow, endless test. The train doesn't rush across. It crawls. And that's what makes it worse. Because slow gives your mind time to imagine everything that could go wrong. Every clatter of wheels feels louder. Every tiny sway feels bigger. You can feel the carriage tilt just slightly in the gusts. Not enough to be unsafe, but enough to make your body tighten. And while you're gripping the seat without realizing it, the view is almost cruelly beautiful. An endless horizon. Sunlight on water. A bridge that seems to float between two worlds. Land behind you, ocean ahead. That's why this belongs in Steel Over Abysses. Because the abyss here isn't a canyon, it's the Indian Ocean. And the bridge is more than transportation. It's a confrontation. A reminder that sometimes humans don't conquer nature. We borrow a narrow path through it and pray it holds. And when the train finally reaches the other side, you don't feel like you've completed a route. You feel like you've been allowed to pass. Death Railway, Thailand. Not every dangerous route tries to kill you with height. Some do it with memory. Because the Death Railway doesn't scare you the moment you look down. It scares you the moment you realize what you're riding through. You step onto an old wooden carriage in Kanchanaburi, and at first, it almost feels harmless. Tourists, cameras, a gentle roll of wheels. Then the train moves, and the sound changes. The clatter isn't just noise. It's like a metronome counting something you weren't meant to count. The air smells of engine oil and sun-warmed timber. And in your head, without anyone saying it out loud, a date appears, the 1940s. This line was built fast, not because the world needed beauty, but because war needed logistics. Tens of thousands of forced laborers, heat, disease, starvation, beatings. A project that wasn't engineered for comfort, only for completion. And then you reach the section people come for. The train slows toward the infamous wooden cliffside stretch, where the track seems to cling to limestone like a nail holding a picture frame. On the left, rock so close you could almost touch it. On the right, a deep drop, the River Kudju AI cutting through the valley below. The bridge creaks. Not dramatically, just enough. Enough to make you listen. The timber groans under steel. The carriage leans with the curve. And suddenly, the thrill people expected turns into something else. A quiet, uncomfortable respect. Because here, the abyss isn't only the gorge beneath you. It's the thought that this route was paid for in human lives, and that the landscape has had decades to become beautiful again, while history is still sharp. The most unsettling part? Nothing jumps out to scream tragedy. There's no warning in the sunlight, no marker in the wind. Just a train moving calmly along a line that should never have existed, and yet does. And when you get off, you don't feel adrenaline. You feel a strange heaviness, like you didn't just cross a bridge. You crossed a sentence the world wrote in steel, and tried to forget. Train to the Clouds, Argentina. If the Death Railway is heavy because of what happened on it, then Train to the Clouds is terrifying because of what happens to you. When the Earth removes oxygen and replaces it with altitude, it starts calmly, almost politely. A train that looks like a postcard. Carriages, windows, a slow rhythm. As if this is going to be a scenic ride you can enjoy. But the Andes don't do scenic. They do scale. The higher you go, the world simplifies. Less color, less sound, less warmth. Until the landscape becomes pure geometry. Rock, shadow, sky. And then you feel it, not fear. A subtle change in your body, like someone turned a dial without asking. Breathing becomes work. Your chest tightens. Your thoughts get slightly slower, like your brain is buffering. Because up here, at over 4,000 meters, you're not just traveling through space, you're traveling through a limit. This is where the engineering turns from impressive to absurd. The train doesn't climb in a straight line. It cheats the mountain with logic, zigzags, switchbacks, spiral loops. It reverses, then moves forward, not for drama, because without that choreography, the slope would simply win. And when you finally reach the moment everyone came for, La Polverilla Viaduct, a steel bridge thrown across emptiness like a dare. You look out and there's nothing down in the normal sense, just a drop that feels unanswered. The train crawls onto the viaduct and the sound changes again. Metal on metal, wind on steel, a long, thin vibration that travels through your bones. And this is the part people don't expect. It doesn't feel like conquering anything. It feels like being allowed to pass for a few minutes. Over a space that was never meant for humans. You see the track suspended in the sky. You see clouds at eye level. And you realize why this route has that name. Not because it touches clouds, but because it makes you understand something simple. Up here, the world doesn't care if you're impressed. It only cares if you can breathe. And when the train finally pulls away from the viaduct, you don't feel relief. You feel smaller. In the best possible way. Like the Andes didn't threaten you. They just reminded you where you stand. White Pass and Yukon route, Alaska, Canada. If train to the clouds feels like your lungs negotiating with the sky, then White Pass and Yukon route feels like history negotiating with the cliff. Because this isn't just a scenic railway. It's a line that was never meant to be comfortable. It was meant to be possible. Built in 1898 during the Klondike Gold Rush, when thousands of people looked at these mountains and said, either we get through or we don't get there at all. And you feel that mindset the moment the train leaves Skagway. At first, it's almost gentle. Pine forests, streams, a quiet climb. The kind of landscape that tricks you into relaxing. Then the mountain pulls the curtain. The track begins to hug rock walls so tightly, you can read the texture of granite like it's a book. And suddenly, there's this unnerving realization. The train isn't high because it's trying to impress you. It's high because there was no other way. You look out the window and the drop is immediate. Not a gradual slope, not a valley you can process, but a clean fall into space. And the worst part, there's no moment where the fear arrives. It's already there quietly because the train runs so close to the edge. Your mind keeps checking the same question. How is this allowed? It's not danger in the modern sense. Not reckless, not broken, not out of control. It's the older, colder kind, exposure. The kind that triggers something primitive in your nervous system, even while the train moves steadily, professionally, as if it has done this a million times. And maybe it has. You climb higher. The air thins. The trees shrink. The world becomes wider. Waterfalls appear in the distance like white threads. Glaciers sit in shadow like sleeping animals. And then you hit the section everyone remembers. A bend where the track feels impossibly narrow. Rock face on one side. And on the other, nothing. No railing. No comfort barrier. Just the raw visual truth of a chasm. It's not a roller coaster. It's not screaming fear. It's that silent grip on the armrest. Because your body doesn't fully trust the idea of steel and wood and bolts, separating you from a fall that would never end. And yet, this is why people love it. Because it's one of the rare journeys where you can feel two emotions at once, awe at the landscape and respect for the humans who looked at this wall of mountain and carved a path anyway, not to conquer nature, but to survive a moment in history when the mountain was the gatekeeper. And when the train finally slows near the summit, you don't feel like you arrived at a viewpoint. You feel like you're standing inside a sentence that the world wrote long ago. Gold made people rush. Mountains made them pay for it. Iron ore train, Mauritania. If White Pass is fear dressed up as postcard beauty, then the iron ore train is something rougher. A moving industrial animal that doesn't care whether you're comfortable, clean, or ready. This isn't a scenic railway. This is a lifeline. A train so long it doesn't look real at first. Over 2 kilometers of steel and ore cars, dragging the desert behind it like a shadow. And when it rolls into the station, you don't feel like a traveler. You feel small. Because the locomotive doesn't arrive. It announces itself. The engine roars like thunder. The ground vibrates. A dry metallic smell hangs in the air before you even see the cars. Then they appear, one after another. Hundreds of wagons filled with black iron ore dust, like a giant steel python sliding through sand. Now here's the part that turns this from interesting to impossible. To really experience it, people don't choose the passenger carriage. They climb. They ride on top of the ore cars. Out in the open. No glass. No seatbelt. No curated experience. Just you and the moving desert. The first thing you notice isn't the view. It's the dust. Fine iron ore powder that gets everywhere. Into your clothes, your hair, the corners of your eyes, your mouth, your throat. You can taste it like pennies. And the wind doesn't just blow past you. It hits you like an invisible wall. Because out there, on top of the cars, you're fully exposed. To speed, to cold at night, to heat in the day, to grit, to vibration. Even the sound is different. It's not the romantic click-clack of film trains. It's heavy, grinding, a deep metallic shudder. Like the entire machine is constantly arguing with physics. And this is where the danger changes tone. It's not the dramatic cliff-edge fear of mountain roads. It's the fear of distance. Because this train crosses vast emptiness, desert that feels like it has no end and no mercy. If something goes wrong out here, you don't just call for help. You wait, and waiting in a desert is its own kind of risk. But despite all of that, people still do it. Because the iron ore train offers something most modern travel has erased. A feeling of absolute rawness. No luxury, no control, no tourist bubble. Just the proof that the world can still be hard, and that humans still build moving miracles through it anyway. And when you look forward from the top of those ore cars, watching that endless line of steel disappear into heat haze, you don't think, this is a trip. You think, this is what survival looks like when it's made of metal. Door to Hell, Turkmenistan. Some places don't feel like a destination. They feel like a mistake the earth is still paying for. Out in the Karakum Desert, far from cities, far from comfort, there's a glow that doesn't belong on a human map. No skyline, no streetlights, no signal. Just orange. A living burn on the horizon, as if the desert itself is leaking fire. They call it the Door to Hell. And the name isn't poetic, it's accurate. Because this isn't a volcano, it isn't a ritual, it isn't ancient. It's a man-made crater, created during the Soviet era when drilling went wrong. And the ground collapsed into a massive gas-filled sinkhole. To stop methane from spreading, the story goes, they did the simplest thing humans do when they're scared of what they can't control. They set it on fire. The plan was, burn it out in a few weeks. That was decades ago. And it's still burning. To reach it, you cross hundreds of kilometers of desert. A road that feels less like a route and more like a test of commitment. The further you go, the emptier the world becomes. No shops, no homes, no people. Just sand, heat, and silence so complete. You start to hear your own thoughts too clearly. Then the sun drops, and suddenly the landscape changes. Not because anything moves, but because the glow becomes visible. At first, it looks like an illusion, like a city beyond the dunes. But as you get closer, the light turns sharper. Hotter. Wrong. And then you see it. A giant crater. Its rim jagged and raw. And inside it, dozens of flames licking at the air, as if the desert has teeth and it's breathing. The heat hits your face even from a distance. The air shimmers. And in that moment, you understand why people don't just visit this place. They stare at it. Because it's not just fire. It's a symbol of an era that treated the earth like an endless resource. Of decisions made fast, with consequences that last forever. Of human confidence colliding with geology. And here's the strangest part, standing there, in the dark, with nothing around you. The crater doesn't just feel dangerous. It feels primal. Like you're looking at something older than fear itself. As if the desert is reminding you, you don't control what's underneath your feet. You only borrow the surface. Some travelers say, if I could go back, I'd still go down again, even if only to see it one last time, before it finally dies out. But that raises a better question. If the door to hell can burn for decades, what else have we lit that we don't know how to turn off? Sedlec, Ossuary, Kutná, Hora, Czech Republic. Some places don't feel strange because they look dangerous. They feel strange because they make you lower your voice without anyone asking. Outside, it's just a small town near Prague. Stone streets, old walls, a quiet church. Nothing prepares you for what happens when you step down into the chapel beneath it. Because this isn't decoration in the usual sense. This is history, physically arranged. Patterns, arches, ornaments, even a chandelier-like centerpiece, built from what the ground has collected over centuries. At first, your mind tries to label it as art. Then it realizes, this place isn't trying to impress you. It's trying to make you remember. Sedlec became famous long ago because this soil was considered sacred. People wanted to be placed here, close to the idea of blessing, close to permanence. And then, like so many places in Europe, time arrived in waves. Periods when the number of farewells became too large for any town to hold quietly. Eventually, what lay beneath had to be reorganized. And in the 1800s, a craftsman was given a task that sounds impossible, not to hide the past, not to erase it, but to arrange it with order, so it could be seen, understood, and respected. That's why this chapel feels different from every museum, every monument, every cathedral. Because here, the message isn't written on a plaque. It's built into the space itself. People sometimes call it unsettling. But if you stand there long enough, something shifts. The shock fades. And what remains is silence. A reminder that history is not only kings, borders, and dates. It is ordinary lives. Countless, anonymous, easily forgotten. And this place refuses to let them vanish completely. You don't leave thinking, that was fun. You leave thinking, how quickly a lifetime becomes a number, and how rare it is to find a place that turns that number back into presence. Island of the Dolls, Mexico. You don't arrive here by highway. You arrive by water. Through the canals of Xochimilco, where the city noise fades and the world turns soft and green and slow. At first, it feels almost peaceful. Then you notice the first one, a small figure hanging from a branch. Sun-bleached, rain-worn, staring in a way that doesn't quite make sense. And then another, and another. Until you realize the trees aren't decorated. They're crowded. This is Island of the Dolls. One of the strangest places you can visit in Mexico, and a location that feels less like a destination and more like a warning. The story people tell is simple, and that's what makes it stick. A caretaker once lived here alone. After a tragedy near the island, he began placing these figures in the trees. As offerings, as protection, as a way to keep something from returning. Whether you believe the story or not, the atmosphere does the work for it. Because time has transformed everything. Plastic faces warp under sun. Glass eyes cloud over. Clothing turns to rags. And what used to be toys becomes something else entirely. Not cute. Not funny. Not even scary in a jump scare way. Just unsettling, like walking through someone's private grief that was never meant to be shared. As you move deeper into the island, the air feels heavier. Partly because of the silence, partly because your brain keeps trying to find a logic for what you're seeing. And then you catch a detail that's easy to miss. Some are tied neatly. Some are pinned in place. Some look like they've been hanging there for decades. It doesn't feel like chaos. It feels like devotion. That's why visitors react so differently. Some people laugh, nervous. Some people film everything. And some people suddenly stop talking. Because it feels wrong to treat this like a joke. And maybe that's the real point of this island. Not that it's haunted. Not that it's cursed. But that it shows what happens when one human being tries to negotiate with fear. Using the only tools he has, symbols, rituals, and silence. You leave the island the same way you came. By boat. The trees shrink behind you. The figures disappear into the green. And the canals look normal again. But the feeling doesn't. Because long after the last face vanishes from view, one question stays with you. If a place can be built out of grief, what else can the human mind build when it's alone long enough? Lake Hillier, Australia. If you saw it in a movie, you'd assume it was CGI. A lake that looks like it was poured from a paint bucket. Pure pink, sitting calmly beside the deep blue of the ocean. This is Lake Hillier on Middle Island, a place that proves nature doesn't need our imagination. It already has its own. From above, the contrast is what feels unreal. Soft pink water, a thin strip of pale shoreline, and then the hard, endless blue of the sea. Up close, it's quieter than you expect. The pink is less aggressive at eye level, more like a subtle blush, until the light shifts, and the color returns like it never left. What makes it even stranger is that, unlike many other pink lakes, this one doesn't lose its identity easily. The water can keep its coloration over time rather than fading the moment conditions change. Scientists have proposed a few explanations, and the most common idea is biological, microscopic life, especially salt-loving organisms, can produce pigments that tint the water in high salinity environments. But with Lake Hillier, the exact mix is still debated, and that uncertainty is part of the magic. It was reportedly observed by Matthew Flinders in the early 1800s, who noted the lake during his voyage along Australia's southern coast. And the location adds another layer. It's not a quick roadside stop. Reaching it usually means a flight over the Research Archipelago or a boat approach. Remote enough that the lake feels protected, almost hidden from the world. If you ever go, the best view is from the air, because that's when the illusion becomes a fact. A pink lake is real, and it's sitting right next to the ocean like it belongs there. And maybe that's the lesson of Lake Hillier, that the planet isn't just beautiful, it's bold. We started with 20 centimeters, the width of a mistake, a tire's edge, a gust, a second too late. And then the world kept escalating. Cliffs that don't forgive, salt flats that erase distance, tunnels cut into rock like scars, bridges that don't connect places so much as test the human nerve system. In North Yungas Road, the fear is immediate, raw and physical. On Guoliang Tunnel Road, it becomes something else, awe mixed with disbelief at what hands can do. On Kahekili Highway, it's not the cliff that scares you most. It's the blind corner where you realize the world doesn't promise fairness. Then comes the long quiet. Dalton Highway doesn't threaten you with one dramatic drop. It wears you down with distance, isolation, and weather that doesn't care about your plans. And when the story shifts to steel. Trains above ravines, tracks over water, old bridges humming under weight. You feel the same theme in a different language. Humanity doesn't defeat nature. It negotiates. Sometimes politely, sometimes arrogantly, and sometimes at a cost. Because every one of these impossible places has the same hidden truth. They are not amusement parks. They are not trophies. They are thresholds. Places where you don't arrive and win. You arrive, you breathe differently. You slow down, and you leave. Hopefully with the kind of respect you can't fake. And maybe that's what this journey was really about. Not collecting the most extreme views. Not proving courage. Not chasing the feeling of being the main character. But learning a quieter skill. To pass through the world without trying to own it. To understand that the most dangerous thing isn't the cliff, or the desert, or the abyss under a bridge. It's the moment we start believing the planet is something we control. So if there's one rule worth keeping after all these roads, all this altitude, all this steel over emptiness, it's this: pass through, don't conquer.